Well, let me say welcome to everybody. We're really glad you're here. Welcome to those of you who are here in the parking lot with me, and welcome to those of you who are joining us on Zoom and at YouTube as well. Neil, I think I'm a little loud. If you could just, that's better. Thank you very much. So we are taking just a few extra minutes to get organized here. It's a bit of a production to get everything set up. So I think we'll probably end up starting just a few minutes late. I apologize for that. And it sounds like I need to go and find a windsock to put over top of this microphone. So sit tight, and those of you who are watching online know that we really are here and we are thinking about you. We've got Marianne Ono behind the camera today, and she might surreptitiously just let the people online know who's here. You know, you could pan around the congregation, and we'll start as soon as I can get the last few pieces together.
One of you.
I'm waiting. Hang on, I gotta turn it all the way around. It's a bit of a problem.
Can I take this chair off?
Yes, take the chair. Yeah, you're
I'm not going to stay.
Okay. Oh, she's going to scan the audience.
That's what he wanted.
So did I'm talking.
Okay. We got everybody over there?
Yeah, it's just a loading roll.
Yeah. Okay.
Coming up, so that's the right place.
Buffering. This thing's gonna get hot too.
Sweater.
Yeah.
We really need to like suspend it.
Yeah, like, even
I can feel the trackpad heating up. Like in the sun, it's getting really hot. Like it hurts to touch. Can't be good for it. Probably, except I still have to reach that.
You don't have to sit here if you want to.
No, it's not. I have to be able to reach this anyway, and this can't go much further back. I'm just trying to shade it.
You know what? I have something in the car. I know that works.
I mean, I guess if you've done it a bunch of times, yeah, like.
You know what? Maybe if we just.
like taped it to like the back shell of the laptop tablet or something. I don't know.
You know what? That'll do it. Yeah, we actually could use some tape. Damage the laptop.
Yeah, that's well, that's really fun. I was gonna get it. I thought we could just.
I bet we could. I mean, even this
Yeah.
would keep it cooler. Like this is actually hot to touch.
So he's just going to get it.
That's fantastic. Thank you.
It was great.
Give it a try. No, this is
Electric tape or something.
Yeah.
Really know. Then you feel like hold it in house.
No, I don't want it to stick too much, honey. So we're gonna have to be able to peel it off later. Yeah, even that works.
Yeah, you have to like crouch over for it to hold it.
Yeah, it needs to stand up. It needs something like that. Yeah.
Or use like one of those like cover shields you could.
Let's try that.
What do you want me to do so you don't like break the fourth wall on the
I
line?
don't need you to worry about it. I just need to know which way was off and which way was on. So
Never
I
mind.
figured that out by pushing it the wrong way.
Yeah. Figured I didn't need to.
So friends, welcome. We're so glad you're here. It is just absolutely delightful to see you here in the parking lot outside the church, and we're thrilled to have you come. When we set this up, we had no idea whether we were going to have 3 people or 30 or 50 or any idea at all. So just to see some of you that I haven't seen for 2 years has been a joy already, and I've been running around like a mad hare trying to get all of the electronics organized. Well, other people have done enormous amounts of other kinds of setup. So thank you. Thank you to each of you who came at 9 o'clock this morning and have been setting up tents and chairs and carrying the piano outside. Thank you to the choir who've come to rehearse with Nancy. Thank you to each of you who have brought food and drink and all of that kind of stuff. It's delightful to have you here, and thrilled to be able to finally have a outdoor service like this for the first time since the pandemic began. So welcome. Welcome also to those of you who are joining us on Zoom or on YouTube. Setting up the electronics this morning has been a little bit of an extra challenge because we have never done a live stream from the outdoor service before. This is brand new, and it's a whole extra set of technology that we've never brought outside. So pretty cool to be able to do that. And when I was checking the Zoom a few minutes ago, I saw that there were 5 or 6 people there on Zoom. I know there's Alyssa from Saskatoon, and I think Keith from England was joining in, and somebody else who's not here. Merlin was not feeling well, so she's not here in person, but she sends you her best, and would be here otherwise. And so there are many people who are connecting in all sorts of different ways, and that's just a part of what it means to be church in these pandemic and post-pandemic ways. So with apologies to the people who are joining us remotely, we actually have a paper bulletin for the first time in 30 months, and I do not have slides to show with the people online. There's only so many hours in the day, and because we're outside, I can't show slides outside. So for those of you online today, it's not as interactive as it normally is. We can't hear you if you speak. We can't chat with you if you type in the chat, and I do apologize to you for that. It was just one more thing that we just couldn't quite manage to work into all the tech. Otherwise, I'd have had to be here at 6 instead of at 9. So that's our plan today, and I invite those of you who are joining us through the camera just to sit back and to watch and to sing with us if you know the words, and to pray with us if you don't. I will announce the hymn numbers so that if you've got a hymn book at home, you can follow the words along with your hymn book. For those of us in the in-person worship, the words are all printed on your paper bulletin, and I hope you follow along there. So again, welcome. I'm not going to try to light a candle this morning because I expect it's going to blow out in about 2 minutes. But I will invite you just to take a moment to pause. Pause and remember why we're here. Pause and remember what it means to be church, wherever we gather as church. To remember what it has meant over the last 30 months as we have gathered in so many different places. To remember how God has been present with us in ways that we never expected. How God has sanctified our homes and our daily lives, and has brought us peace and strength and encouragement throughout these pandemic days, and has gathered us here again to celebrate each other and to reflect on what it has meant and what it does mean to be church together. And so, trusting in all of that, friends, come let us worship. Our opening hymn is Voices United 229, God of the Sparrow.
So, Stephen, no slides for this one?
No slides at all.
You want me to open the phone?
Just bring it down so that people online can hear me singing, but I don't lost it.
Yeah, you like on that too. Keep your voice down.
Oh, you were, I'm sorry.
You would want me
That's why
to
I'm not quite ready.
change
I understand.
that one.
Sparrow, God of the whale, God of the swirling stars, how does that creature say, oh? How does the creature say, praise? God of the earthquake, God of the storm, God of the trumpet blast, how does the creature say, oh? How does the creature say, God of the rainbow, God of the cross, God of the empty grave, how does the creature say, praise? How does the creature say, thanks? God of the hungry, God of the sick, God of the broken heart, how does the creature say, care? How does the creature say, life? God of the neighbor, God of the poor, God of the pruning poor, how does the creature say, oh? How does the creature say, peace? God of the ages, God near at hand, God of the lovely God, how do your children say joy? How do your children say please be seated. And you can turn me up again, please.
I'll like to break the fourth wall.
There we go, thank you. And our opening prayer is actually printed on the bulletin. So I invite you to take that up, and for those of you watching on Zoom, you can just listen to me. Let us pray together. Surrounded by flowers and trees and ivy, we gather for worship, O God. Surrounded by homes and roads and towers, we gather for worship, O God. Surrounded by neighbors of other faiths, and neighbors who profess no faith at all, we gather for worship to sing of your grace and to remember your hope and to dedicate ourselves to your compassion. How bold it is to presume to pause in the midst of so much activity. Here in the midst of this city, make our space sacred. Here in the midst of our busyness, make our time together sacred. Here in the midst of all the cares of our lives, all the tasks undone, all the hurts unhealed, all the fears and longings of our hearts, make us sacred and holy. that we may share your wholeness with our neighbors and our city and your world. And so I invite you to take a moment just to pause and make your confession in silence. Anyone in Christ is a new person altogether. The past is finished and gone, and everything is fresh and new. And so, friends, rejoice and trust in the good news. Thanks be to God. Got it. Good. Spirit early in the morning, walk with the Spirit throughout the long day. Work and hope for the new life of born, and listen to the Spirit to show you the way. Well, now let's have the bulletins. Okay. So we haven't done a children's time in worship for a long time, but we couldn't possibly do an outdoor service without a children's time. I mean, that's part of the fun. I had no idea how many kids were going to be here because we've been doing church school before church, which is why we haven't had kids at our church service, which is why we haven't done the children's time. But here we are, and we do have kids, and that's wonderful. And I thought it would be fun to do a children's time, whether we had any kids or not. So I want to invite the kids to come up a little closer so you can see really well, but I want to kind of do this interactively as much as possible with everybody and not just put the kids on the spot. I wanted to talk a little bit about the things that are powerful that we can't see. Can you think of some things that are powerful that we can't see? That's okay. So you can talk to me, and you can talk to me too. Tell me about some of the things that maybe could hurt us that we can't see. And the things that we can't see that might hurt us? Anybody have any ideas? Wind. Yeah, it's noisy today, isn't it? I think maybe I will try using the other microphone and see whether that makes a difference.
Did you want to pull it back a bit?
Tornadoes.
You were eating tornadoes, and I'm just thinking about how noisy it is to listen to this. Let's see if this mic has a little less noise in it.
Unkind words.
Unkind words. Oh, I like that one. Yeah, what else? Yes.
Gravity.
Gravity. Can't see gravity. Never thought of that. Yeah.
Viruses.
Viruses. Wonder what made you think of that. I think those are all good things. And I think it's important to remember that there are things we can't see that really are powerful. What about things we can't see that are powerful for good?
Love.
Love. Oh, I like that one. Yeah.
Kindness.
Kindness, sure. Any other things you can, yeah. Peace, sure. Yeah. Maybe even God. It's a concept. I wanted to try to make something together today that we can't see, but that is powerful. And we just kind of play around with that. So here, you can hold my microphone. Maybe you need to tell people what I'm doing because the people online can't hear me. So I have some baking soda here. Not quite a quarter cup of baking soda. What do you suppose this is? What's this?
White vinegar.
White vinegar. So what happens if I mix baking soda and white vinegar? Do you know? Talk into the microphone so the Zoom people can hear you.
So what would happen would be kind of volcano reaction.
We're going to get a volcano reaction. That's the fun part.
Yes.
And then what do we have?
Chemicals?
Chemicals?
Yes.
Do you know what kind of chemical? Let's watch the volcano and then we'll talk about it.
Okay.
Are you ready? I think you need to count down with me.
Okay.
5,
10,
4, 3,
2,
1.
1. Not overflowing.
I'm sorry it's not overflowing, but it is kind of cool. So as it ebbs down, what's left inside the jar? Above the juice that you can see there, what's above the juice? All of that, it looks like nothing, but there's something in there that wasn't there before. Do you know what it is? What?
Bubbles?
Bubbles. Yeah, there's bubbles, but above the bubbles, what do you think there is? Air. Special kind of air. Special kind of air that wasn't there before. Carbon dioxide, right on. Do you know how we know that it's carbon dioxide?
No.
Because if we pour it on top of a lit candle, the candle will go out. Isn't that cool? Candles need oxygen. And so if we light some of those candles and then we very carefully pour the invisible gas on top of the candles, they should blow out. I saw this on the internet. I haven't tested it. They're laughing at me.
Wait, what if we put the air on the plants so then they can do photosynthesis?
That would be another way to do it for sure. But let's try this one first. We'll light some candles first. Here, you hold the microphone. You tell the Zoom people what I'm doing.
So right now, Steve is going to light it, but it's not working for some reason. And he seems somewhat
Watch who
annoyed.
you give a microphone to.
Or else it doesn't work.
He has lit one candle.
Just giving lots of time for that carbon dioxide.
Yes. Lit 4, 5, 6. Actually, wait, still 4. Now, 7.
Okay,
Wait, the last one didn't
so
work.
we're going to take our invisible carbon dioxide and we're just going to pour it.
Now he is pouring it on.
Ooh.
It went out. The majority of them went out to just being near it. Science.
But even things we can't see are really powerful. I think it's good to focus our lives on the powerful things for good. Because sometimes the things that are powerful for good are the most powerful ones, the ones we can't see at all. Like kindness and peace and love and God. Thank you. Thank you for coming to help me with my science experiment. Thank you for letting me see that the internet actually tells the truth. Only sometimes, but it works.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Once.
We're going to say the Lord's Prayer together. We have typically in the pandemic put the Lord's Prayer in the traditional liturgical place, which is after the prayers of the people. But we moved it years ago when we wanted our kids to remember it and say it every week with us. And so we're going to say the Lord's Prayer now before the kids go off with Anne to do some crafts and things up in the other end of the property. So let's pray. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory forever and ever. I need to check the bulletin because I don't remember what comes next. A hymn. We should sing again. All Things Bright and Beautiful. For those of you at home, it's Voices United number 291. Let's sing together. The anthem will come after the offering and before the prayers. So one of the casualties of racing around to set up all the electronics this morning is that I failed to print off the reading for Alex. So he's going to read it off my phone. Technology, right?
Spoiled brats today.
There you go. You want me to hold this if you're shading the
Yeah,
phone?
that'd be great. A reading from Kings, chapter 19, verse 1 through 15. Elijah flees from Jezebel. Ahab told Jezebel all that Elijah had done and how he had killed all the prophets with his sword. Then Jezebel sent a messenger to Elijah, saying, "So may the gods do to me, and more also, if I do not make your life like the life of one of them by this time tomorrow." Then he was afraid. He got up and fled for his life and came to Beersheba, which belongs to Judah. He left his servant there. But he himself went a day's journey into the wilderness and came and sat down under a solitary broom tree. He asked that he might die. Quote, "It is enough now, O Lord, take away my life, for I am no better than my ancestors." Then he lay down under, where did it go? Suddenly it just jumped. Then he lay down under the broom tree and fell asleep. Suddenly an angel touched him and said to him, "Get up and eat." He looked, and there at his head was a cake baked on hot stones and a jar of water. He ate and drank and lay down again. The angel of the Lord came a second time, touched him, and said, "Get up and eat, otherwise the journey will be too much for you." He got up and ate and drank, and he went in the strength of that food for 40 days and 40 nights to Horeb, the mount of God. At that place he came to a cave and spent the night there. Then the word of the Lord came to him, saying, "What are you doing here, Elijah?" He answered, "I've been very zealous for the Lord, the God of hosts, for the Israelites have forsaken your covenant, thrown down your altars, and killed your prophets with the sword. I alone am left, and they are seeking my life to take it away."
Thank you. I think I'll put this microphone on the stand. There. When the mic is on the stand, I can't move around quite so much. It's better than all of the wind noise we're getting off this wireless mic. So you stand back here a little bit, you'll probably get a better perspective on the video. So this is one of the great Old Testament stories, right? But as I was reading through it, I was wondering, like, where do you go when it feels like God has let you down? Where do you go when you've put your heart and soul into something and you believed in it and you're sure it was the right thing to do and you know that God is going to work through the work that you're doing, and then it all falls apart and comes crashing down around your ears? You realize that everything you've done was worthless or maybe even harmful. I don't think that's too far-fetched. I think that's a part of our experience. That's certainly where Elijah was feeling. I mean, it's one thing to fail completely when you're just doing something that you're doing on your own strength, but when you're failing at something that you're sure God wants you to be doing, and when you come to the realization that not only have you failed, but maybe you were wrong-headed, maybe it wasn't the right thing to do. I mean, it makes you ask all of those really hard questions. Like, maybe you were wrong. Maybe this isn't. Maybe you didn't get it right. Maybe God wasn't like that after all. Maybe you made a mistake around what you thought God wanted you to be doing. Or maybe you were right and God wanted that, but God isn't powerful enough to make it succeed. I think we all struggle sometimes with those kinds of deep, deep doubts. That's where Elijah's at the beginning of this story. He's out there in the desert and he's running away from Jezebel. He's had this magnificent success. Totally came crashing down around his ears, and he's fleeing for his life. And everybody who thought he was great and was following him has abandoned him, and he's all alone. He's not the only person who's ever failed. Not even the only person who's ever failed trying to do the right thing and discovering he's been doing it all in the wrong ways. But that's kind of a human experience, isn't it? I mean, I think there are probably doctors who feel like that when they watch somebody that they've been laboring over finally give up the ghost and die. I imagine a police officer might feel like that when they can't track down a murderer, or they just can't find that rapist, or they did find them and they go to court and the whole thing is thrown out because they made a mistake along the way and they did it wrong. And they know that somebody who's guilty is still out there. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? LGBT activists, I mean, Pride this month, right? That's still more protest than celebration. Think about all the failures they had along the way. I still remember the Toronto Bathhouse parades. Those happened when I was in university, when it was illegal to be gay. What a change we've lived through. And black people, you've been complaining for decades about being treated differently by the police. The police have finally admitted it. But how long did that take? How long did that take? How many failures before we finally got there? I mean, sometimes, well, I should say, that it's not just in Toronto, right? I mean, the state's is celebrating Juneteenth today. How long has it taken there? You can't say that there's no grudges in the United States. You may have a new national holiday, but holy cow, we sure need it too. Failure is a part of our life together. Part of what it means to be people of faith. Not everything that we know is right, or that we hope is right, or that we plan on expecting is going to be right works. Sometimes the stuff that we care about, stuff that we know is right, doesn't work, it fails. And sometimes it fails because evil is too strong. Sometimes it fails because we went about it the wrong way. Sometimes we don't even know why it fails. President Obama was fond of quoting Martin Luther King, who said, "The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends towards justice." I love that. I love that saying. And it's true, at least I hope it's true. I really, really, really hope that in spite of all the terrible things we know are happening around the world, that the world really is bending towards justice. And that it matters that we stand with those who are being abused. And that we help to bend that arc every time we do something with kindness and peace and love that the kids were talking about. I hope that. I base my life on it. Like all of us, I have my doubts sometimes too. I just wish it could happen a little sooner. I wish that arc wasn't quite so long. I wish it didn't take multiple royal commissions to get clean water in Native communities. I wish it didn't take multiple stories in the Toronto Star before the police would own up to how they were behaving. We've had pride parades for decades. Why did it take that long? Failure is hard, and when you're doing God's work, it's even harder. And when you're doing God's work and you discover you've made it worse instead of better, that's the hardest thing of all. So where do you go in the midst of that kind of failure? When you're doubting everything and whether anything you did makes sense. Elijah went to Moses' mountain. You know that mountain where he went up and got the 10 Commandments, that mountain where he went into the cleft of the rock, that cave, and the glory of the Lord went flashing by. Talk about going to the source, right? That's about as close to the Godhead as you can get. Elijah must have been hoping for the same kind of reassurance that Moses got. That there really is a God and that he really is powerful and that there's really a point to all this. I mean, Moses saw all those fireworks after the whole golden calf debacle, right? He must have been hoping for something similar. He didn't get it. No fireworks, no glory walking past the cave, no convincing miracles, no thunderbolts. I mean, he sees an earthquake, he sees lightning show. He sees all those things he was hoping for, and he realizes that God wasn't there. Destruction and mayhem and death and violence and all of those things that our insurance companies would call acts of God. He sees every one of them, and it's not divine, and it's not God, and God wasn't in it. And he finds God afterwards in that still small voice. What Elijah realizes, I think, in that story that Alex read to us, is that he's been looking for the wrong sort of God. He's been looking for the insurance company God, the one who threatens us and makes us terrified and threatens the thunderbolts in order to make us cower in fear and do the right thing. And God's not like that. There was nothing of the sacred in there. Whatever it was that Moses saw on that same mountain so many years before, wasn't destruction, wasn't threats, wasn't something that would cause that kind of fear. And then as he ponders that, and he sits in the silence afterwards, he realizes that it's not that he hasn't found God, that God was there all the time. He just wasn't looking in the right places. That God was there long before he ever got to the mountain. God was the one who gave him the food that appeared magically overnight while he was sleeping, right? God was the one who joggled his angels as a way of talking about God. God was the one who joggled his elbow and woke him up and said, look, there's the food there you need to eat. And then the next day when he still hadn't eaten, the angel comes back and he says, get on with it. You've got a journey to go to. You eat. It was gone. And that God was in that pregnant calm after the disaster had done its worst. God was there in the conviction that future is still possible, even after everything comes crashing down. God was there in the command to get on with it, to leave behind that's the safety of that cleft of the rock, to go off and go back to work. You're not done yet, even though you failed. Elijah's God wasn't extinguished by anything that Jezebel had done or any of the mistakes he'd made. It's kind of like Good Friday for us. Good Friday is absolutely the worst thing that could have happened to Jesus. It was the failure of everything he tried to accomplish. And it didn't stop God, and it didn't stop what God was doing, and we're still here. Because after Good Friday, it was. So that's how we as people of faith grapple with disaster. That's the kind of God who gathers us together even when the worst has happened. As I was thinking about our time together today and being outside and being together for the first time in 2 years, but being in the shadow of that building behind me, I was remembering that every time we've been outside at these outdoor services, I keep getting struck by the needs, the human needs around us. Somehow when you're inside the building and the windows are stained glass and you can't see through them, it's easy to forget that we live in a busy and complicated world. But here we are, and we're sitting in the parking lot, and there's traffic going up and down Bathurst Street, and there's people in the houses all on Wembley, and you know they have lives and dreams and hopes and failures and disappointments and struggles. And that's why we're here. It's what it's about, not just for them, but for us. Not just for us, but for them. I think what Elijah realized when he's up in the cleft of the rock is that we need the sacred spaces sometimes. There may indeed be times when we have to retreat into the cleft of the rock or into the cave or into the sanctuary or whatever you want to call it. But that Elijah's work was out here. Elijah's work was out with Jezebel and Ahab and all those people who'd abandoned him. And ours is too. Our work is out here. Grappling with that arc of history. Confronting the injustices of our times. Witnessing to the conviction that acting for justice is worth it even when it doesn't have the impact we intended. Even when there are failures. Even when we lose battles. Even when we feel alone. I think that's important all the time. I think that's always a theme that I have tended to bring into these outdoor services, but I think it's especially powerful this year for me. As the pandemic draws to a close, as we start to explore what it means to be church, now that we can get back inside that building again, now that we can start to think about it as a tool at our disposal again for the first time in 30 months. For God's kindness and God's love and God's justice. We need to spend some time thinking about why we're here and what it's for and what we're doing inside it and what we're doing with it and who else we might invite inside it with us. And how it can be a symbol and a witness to that justice and kindness and compassion, not just for the people who are members, but for everybody. I think the worst thing we could do is turn it into a clubhouse, right? The worst thing we could do is say, hooray, let's have a party and we'll just go inside our building and celebrate that we're here again and we can be our own club. We need each other. That's vital. But we're here because the neighborhood needs us. We're here because our work is outside. And the work of that building is to provide that respite, to equip the saints, to help us find the perspective we need, so that we can get on with bending that arc of history a little tighter than it seems to be bending without us. Elijah found God who was with him on that journey, even after the failure. Well, you know, we found God too in the last 30 months. We found God on Zoom, for heaven's sakes. Who would have thought that would be true? This is not exactly a technically comfortable church. An awful lot of you who've never used Zoom before we started broadcasting our services there, and there's nothing wrong with that, but would you have been amazed 30 months ago to hear that we'd be worshiping on Zoom of all places? I was. We found God in turkey dinners at Christmas and in small outside gatherings and in taking care of our neighbors. Places we didn't even think to look. And yet God met us there in the midst of that. Elijah found God in helping to hold life together even when he was too discouraged and depressed and defeated to put one foot in front of another. And I think lots of us could say we found that too. That's been the experience of the last 2 years. And it's been the experience of people who go through their own personal and family struggles, as well as the collective one we've gone through as a society. Elijah found God after the destruction and the mayhem and all of those insurance company events were finished. God still alive, still infusing the world with life, still offering hope, even when all hope was crazy. Still inclining that arc of history towards justice. Still offering future, even when the worst failure imaginable can happen. So we can be witnesses to that kind of God. We've had glimpses of that for the last 30 months. We can be witnesses to that kind of God for each other and for our neighbors. God who is still with us even when the worst happens. God who meets us even in our failures. Doesn't stop loving us, working through us, and calling us to act. And so for today, absolutely, let's party. We need to do that. We are a community. We need to kind of reconstitute ourselves as a community. This is the first time we've had a chance to see so many of each other for a long, long time. Let's renew old friendships. Let's reach out to a few strangers that are here and make new friendships. Let's connect with each other. It's important. It's part of what it means to be God's beloved community. But as we move through the summer, as we move into the fall, as we move back into that building, let's also remember why it's here and why we're here. And let's do more than just reconstitute ourselves as a beloved community that takes care of itself. Let's remember our calling. Make ourselves and that building tools for God's love and God's justice, God's vision of how the world could be different. God isn't interested in mayhem or threats or destruction or insurance company events. God walks with us in the worst of failures and the hardest of times. We are never abandoned. God never lets go of us no matter what happens, even when we ourselves miss the boat and screw up. God is there, walking with us and bending that arc of history towards justice. Thanks be to God for that. And our hymn, Voices United 681, for those of you at home with the hymn book. We're across the crowded ways of life.
Above the noise of selfish strife,
So again, welcome. So glad you're here. Welcome to all of you who are here. Welcome to those of you who are on Zoom and joining us through YouTube. It's great to have you here. I see that the hamburgers are starting up on the barbecue, and so we have 48 hamburgers and 36 hot dogs. I hope that's enough for everybody. We also have individually packaged condiments so that you don't have to share a squeeze bottle. And I think the idea was that Congregational Life Committee were going to serve some of those salads. Is that set up, Linda? You've got volunteers for that? Terrific. So we were going to encourage you as you approach the table, if you've got a mask, if you please use it, just so that we're not breathing on food. But otherwise, of course, we're outside. And there's no need to worry too much about masking, because this is just about as safe as we can be, even if the pandemic were a lot more strong than it is now. So thanks for coming. Great to have you here, and thanks to the Congregational Life Committee who has done the organizing behind the scenes. Thanks to all who helped come and do the setup this morning at 9 o'clock. And thank you all of you who have brought some food and brought your lawn chairs and come to reconnect. It's great to have you here. So a couple of extra announcements I wanted to make. First of all, Sarah Joyce was going to make this announcement, and Sarah is stricken with a case of vertigo this morning. I got a text from her about 10:30 to say that she can hardly stand up. She's just feeling so rotten and dizzy. So our sympathy and concern go out to her. I had one of those once, and I was flat on my back for 3 days. It's awful. Many others of you I know have had experiences of that. I hope Sarah's doesn't last as long as mine did. It's not life-threatening, but it is about the most uncomfortable thing imaginable that isn't life-threatening. And so our hearts and minds are with her. But wanted to tell you the announcement that Sarah wanted to share with you. And to do that, I want you to look at the roof over top of the church. Look very carefully at it, because you own every shingle. As of Monday, the debt was paid off. So we got a grant from the Faithful Footprints group, which is a United Church group that offers grants to churches to make their space more energy efficient and to reduce our carbon footprint. The grant was for $19,000, and it reduced our debt to zero on all of the different projects that we have done over the last couple of years. So I think this is remarkable, that we have put about $60,000, $70,000, something in that neighborhood, into all of this work, into the new roof, into the shingles, into the insulation under the roof, into the new thermostats in the rads, into the insulation that we put into the various different efforts that we've gone to, not simply to maintain the building, but to make it better and more efficient and to pollute less. And we've paid for it in spite of the pandemic, in spite of reduced numbers of people coming to church, in spite of not even being able to be inside the darn building. Congratulations and thank you. The other word that I need to bring you, and this one is harder for me, and that is that I'm finally at liberty to answer your questions about Paul Cutler. As you know, Paul has been slowly getting ill since probably last June. And many of you have noticed that and noticed his declining health on Zoom, and you've noticed his absence on Zoom in the last 6 or 8 weeks. And you keep asking me, where is he and how's he doing? And I keep being cagey, because one of the problems in my job is that if people say, don't tell anybody, I can't. I can now tell you that Paul has cancer and that Paul is dying, and it's probably very close. It is one of these classic examples of not getting diagnosed early enough because he was having telephone visits with his doctor. And so the diagnosis only came about 6 weeks ago. But on Thursday, he was moved into palliative care, and I expect he'll be going within a few days. Because he's in palliative care, the hospital will allow me to go in and see him. I haven't been able to see him in hospital because of COVID. But as of Thursday afternoon, I've been in every day, and I will continue to do that until he finally goes. And when I saw him last night, I thought it might have been overnight. So this one is hard for me, as I know you can imagine. But I know what an important and critical person he was in this congregation, and how many of you have valued his friendship and his time with us. And most of the electronic equipment that we are using today is stuff that he has given to the church. He has made it possible for us to continue in this electronic format. And we will all miss him. Certainly I will. So I needed to tell you that. And as you can see, it's hard. And I imagine there will be a funeral in another week or two. And I invite you to stay watching your emails from the church, and I'll let you know more as that moves along. The other one, as many of you know, who is close to death, is Michael Fraser. And we're expecting that within a couple of weeks as well. So, two people who have given heart and soul to this place. I want to honor both of them as we gather as community and trust that when the worst happens, we are held by the love that not only parties with us in the good times, but promises future, even in the hardest ones. So, as you're eating your hamburgers, remember each of them. One of the things that we stopped doing in the pandemic was passing the offering plate. Together, people who can sit down after a small jar that And so as we move from our worship into our picnic, the choral blessing is one of my favorite table graces, and I hope you'll join me in singing it. That's how we will bless both each other and the food. But let me say first, how wonderful it is to see you. It's been 30 months. We are God's beloved community. We need to celebrate that and hold on to that identity. We need to remember why this building is here. It's not just a clubhouse, but it is sacred space from which we can reach out to a hurting world. Go and celebrate the feast. Go and take up your mission. And let's together bend that arc of justice with God. The blessing of God, Creator, Word, and Spirit be with us all, this day and forever. Amen. For all your goodness, God, we give you thanks. Thanks for the food we eat and for the friends we meet. For each new day we greet, we give you thanks. For all your goodness, God, we give you thanks. Thanks for the food we eat.
One or the other. All part of the fun.
I think we can stop the stream. So should we stop? Stream them.
Yes, I think we should stop.
We have a master.